This episode of the CZ Media Podcast is brought to you by Rancho Bravo Tacos. They have two convenient locations, Capitol Hill and Wallingford. I love going to Capitol Hill. I'll go order my food, whether it be tacos, burritos, or tamal. I love their tamales. They're fantastic. And then I'll go sit on the patio, enjoy my meal, and then wait for something interesting to happen. And given that it's Capitol Hill, something interesting always happens. If you don't have time to go to either location, you can always order through your favorite food ordering app, Uber Eats, Caviar, or Chow Now. They make it really easy to get all of your favorite items. So next time you're craving some delicious Mexican food, stop in or order. You'll be glad you did.
Tonight I'm feeling mean, I'm feeling mean. Tonight I'm feeling mean, I'm feeling mean. Tonight I'm feeling mean, gonna make an ugly scene. Tonight I'm feeling mean, I'm feeling mean. Tonight I'm gonna pick myself a fight. If some deserving dirtbag a black eye, and if he swings at me, then I'll bust that sucker's knee. 'Cause tonight I'm feeling mean, I'm feeling mean.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the CZ Media Podcast. I want to thank everyone for listening, and I want to remind everyone, if you haven't yet, go to your favorite podcast app and give us a follow. Give us a review. A 5-star review will help the show a lot. We're on Stitcher, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Apple Podcasts, and iHeartRadio. And then don't forget to check out our sponsors, Rancho Bravo Tacos. They have a location in Capitol Hill and in Wallingford. Follow them on Instagram, RBT Tacos on Instagram. And then our newest sponsor, Soulmates. So, Valentine's Day is coming up. They have a sale right now where if you buy online, put in VDay10 in checkout, you'll get 10% off. So if you're looking for something special for that special someone, that sounded corny, or for yourself, give it a go. Get some Jordans, some Yeezys, and make that someone or yourself happy. So today, it's kind of a serious show. Tommy, what did you say? It's serious, but is there a way that we can have this conversation where perhaps it's not so serious?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, I feel you and I, we've, talked a few times. I think there's enough of a rapport to where it won't be too serious.
And it's I'm not a super, super serious guy,
right,
but I do want the show to highlight, because I bill it as a Seattle-centric show.
Absolutely.
So I've had on musicians, people who, are mostly Seattle. And then, as everyone knows, Seattle is going through some hardships right now with, our homeless population. And, there's definitely groups of people that, need help, and, things aren't going great for them.
Right.
So as we were chatting, you're a young guy and you are helping. So that's where I sort of want to take this conversation. So tell us, introduce yourself to the audience. Tell us a little bit about yourself and what do you do? And then we'll go from there.
Okay, absolutely. Well, first, thanks for having me. Everybody, my name is Tommy Kidd. That's Kidd.
That's a great name too.
Yeah, much appreciated. So just a little about myself. Born and raised in Seattle. Moved a lot around King County, just, during childhood, adolescent years. Yeah, I wasn't ready for that question. A little bit about, because I'm just relating it to family. I'm thinking I'm the oldest of all my siblings.
How many
oldest
siblings?
Of all my cousins. 3 siblings that I grew up with, all of my mother's children. So I'm the oldest of all 4 of them. Okay. I have an older sister that I met later on in life when I was around maybe 13. So I was fortunate just to be able to foster that relationship with her. But yeah, I'm drawing a blank on that question, but
So Seattle born, Seattle
born.
raised. So you have, Seattle's here. Your heart is here. Seattle
Absolutely.
is here. Just like we met at the sneaker shop.
Yes.
And one of the
shout out to Paris, shout out to
shout out
Soulmates.
to Paris. One of the most favorite things he likes to say is, "I'm old school CD."
Yeah.
And 24th and Union. Like I've heard him say that many, many times, and it's just very proud of where he came from, and that's why the shop is there too.
Absolutely.
So would you agree with that sentiment of how you treat Seattle and where you grew up with that same affinity?
Yes, in a sense of my family has roots in the neighborhood in which Paris is from. Well, more specifically, the Central District, not specifically Union, not really sure. But, my family's from there, 4 generations to the point. My grandmother went to Garfield.
Okay.
My father and all his siblings went to Garfield. My older
you go to
sister went
Garfield?
there. I didn't go to Garfield.
No.
so I can't claim the same affinity specifically. Well, actually, I do have a great level of affinity for the city. I just didn't grow up there, just the way that everyone else did,
What high school did you go to?
I went to Evergreen out on, so that's going to be like, White Center neighborhood.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So White Center, right before you get to, Ambom and right before you get to Berrien. So, and that was a point in my life, just me moving a lot. High school ended up being there. I almost would have went to, I would have went to Renton if my family had stayed there. We lived in Renton for about 2.5 years, and just some of my story. Just moved a lot. Matter of fact, you know what? I will share a little of my story. It's interestingly enough, you brought up just how the homeless population needs help and all these different things. That's something we're going to talk about, right?
Yeah.
Some of my story personally. I've been in foster care, and while I've been with. I don't know if she's going to want me to say this, but it's my story. I got to own my story. So, just being with my mom, like we've had to live in homeless shelters and shelters for battered families. You know what I mean? It's just, it's a real thing. It's things that really happen. So, due to situations such as those, there was a lot of moving, and there was more stable times, and there was times where, okay, like this is what it is. This is what we're used to, so maybe I didn't question it as much. I'm sure I felt some type of way to where was unhappy that I didn't really get to connect with peers the way a lot of other people do. Cause I just don't live in a certain area long enough. But yeah, so
you have that, you have an understanding of what what this segment of the population is going through. It's like, so give us what is your job description? What's your title?
Okay, so my title, I am a case manager. I work in a transitional living program. We work with a homeless population. So that's where the word transition comes in. Of course, we're trying to transition people from homelessness to permanent living. So yeah, that would be my title. I'm a case manager. The population I work with is between the ages of 18 and 24 years old.
So, young.
Absolutely, yeah. So we've noticed a need for a need for transitional programs such as the one that I work in. Also, sometimes you have kids that are in foster care, so it's this thing where, upon 18 years old, people are, I don't want to say forced to move out of foster care, but it's just like, okay, you're of age now, you have to move out, but they might not necessarily have all those independent skills that they need to just go out and live on their own at 18. We know people that are well into their 20s that aren't able to do that,
But you can still be in the foster system at that age?
Well, up to about 21 or 22, if I'm not mistaken. So there's this push for something called extended foster care. So it's again just that need being recognized to where it's like, oh, okay, like removing people from foster care at 18 isn't really working.
Yeah.
They're coming out and they're ending up homeless, or they're ending up in other situations that aren't favorable. So the populations that I work with are either, transitional in a sense of, they're homeless or they're aging out of foster care.
Yeah. We've heard the term that is used a lot is you age out.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that's the term. You're correct.
So the individuals who do age out and then are sort of thrust out there to fend for themselves,
Right.
extending it would, I mean, it seems like it would help them, because there should be a difference between a kid, like a teenager, having teenager responsibilities, which is going to school, and then a 22-year-old who then their responsibility should be to be independent. But
Yes.
but the extending it seems like it would give them a little bit more time to focus on those independent skills versus separating their time with going to school and then
Right.
I mean, am I sort of correct here? Like,
I feel so. Yeah, I feel like you. Sorry, I'm moving around.
No,
I
no
feel
problem.
I feel like you are correct. Some people just need that extra time. And I mean, just the fact that they're in foster care to begin with. By the way, this is no knock to foster care at all, but it's just like the fact that you're there means that the environment in which you were in before wasn't necessarily the best environment. So you might have not had the same skills as someone who had more of a stable household. So just with that being said, some of these things you're just learning as you're turning 18. You're learning stuff that someone else might have learned at 8 years old or 10 or 12, just when it comes to maybe, I don't know, so I brought up that I moved a lot, right? Mm-hmm. There was really, when it came to like waking up on time for school, it really wasn't a big deal, you know?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you didn't have that guiding hand.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I'd put it like that.
I mean,
that.
so it would seem like if you're the type of individual that is going to be independent, then you would have just been forced into it, and then that's just your personality.
Absolutely.
But if certain personalities aren't quite like that, mm-hmm. then that's where trouble comes in. Right. Where you're not I don't want to say self-starter, but if you don't have that inner drive to do, and right. you don't have a guiding hand, mm-hmm. then, I mean, the streets is where you will find the least resistance, and you probably say that's what I want to go do.
Right.
So you help, the age group which you help is between 18 and
24, 18 to 24. Yeah.
So, I mean, that's quite a range there. What type of differences do you see between an 18-year-old and a 24-year-old? And I don't want you to give specifics, but okay. like in general, like what type of needs, what is an 18-year-old looking for versus a 24-year-old? Like what helps them the best? If I'm asking this question correctly, because again, it seems like an 18-year-old is in a different place than a 24-year-old.
At least they should be.
At least they should be.
Not to so
is that something that you consider, that is considered when trying to help either?
Not enough.
Okay.
And by the way, when I say 18 to 24, usually they age out at 24. Recently, there has been an effort to maybe extend it to 25 or their 26th birthday. And it's interesting that you ask, what are the difference in needs between someone that's 18 versus 26? You would imagine that someone who's 24 or 25, they would be more self-actualized than somebody who is 18. And sometimes it's not always the case, unfortunately. Right. So far as needs, maybe with those that are closer to the 24 age range, I think the needs would be just more accountability, or more of just a stern, like, you know, that time is coming. Like, you're not 18 anymore. You're not 19 anymore. And it's like the way you're operating, while this situation in which you're in is not fair, it's like, I'm going to need you to take more responsibility for your life, and just recognize that we're actually trying to help you. So just to go into my program a little bit. So, you know, we offer housing. In addition to that, we try and provide education resources, employment resources, case management. But again, being that age, sometimes the cop out could be, oh, well, I'm grown. So even though you're telling me to do this, I have my own choice to do this, that, and the third. And we can only make somebody do so much.
Right.
Even though we're case managers or resource specialists or things of that nature, ultimately we can provide all the resources in the world, but you have to do the work. So a large percentage of it is you being consistent with the work that you're doing.
Yeah, it seems so. I mean, I just thought of this question is like, are you seen as a helpful resource or as an authoritative figure that is trying to tell you what to do?
Depends on the person. Depends on the person. Like if it's someone who's just, they're very much just, what's the word I'm looking for? Stubborn, oppositional, defiant.
Yeah. Just
I had somebody they said they had and by the way, I'm not trying to make fun of any disorders or anything, but I don't know if they said oppositional defiance disorder or something to do with like some disorder about people with authority. And it's just like, no, you just don't want to,
diagnose themselves as this.
Yeah. And it's just, and it's something I've never heard. And it's just, okay, so, there could quite possibly be a percentage where that's really the case. But in how many instances is this diagnosis really accurate?
Right.
Are we just putting something down on paper just to make it simple for this person to get whatever resources it is that they need so that they can function a certain way to where they don't stress me out and I just pass the buck. So
I'm going to use that next time my wife tells me to do something and I don't do it.
Oppositional defiance
disorder. I have oppositional defiance.
I hope I'm saying the right term. I feel like someone's going to listen and look it up.
I've never heard of it, but it totally seems like that is something that someone would use nowadays.
Yeah.
That's
right.
Man, so that must just make your job so challenging. Like, what do you consider success on a daily basis? I mean, because your success isn't going to come overnight.
Right.
It's not probably going to come week to week. It's like you're in it for the long game, as long as you're able to, as long as you have contact with your assignees.
Yes.
Is that the correct word?
We use participants, clients. Sometimes there's a stigma with the word clients. They don't, they feel like, oh, you're treating us like a number. We haven't heard that recently. But, some people, for a while, we didn't even call ourselves case managers in my organization. We just stuck with the word resource specialist because people felt like, I don't want to be considered a case. And it's just like, no, that's just the operating title. But, we know who you are as a person. We're treating you as a person. But I still use the word participants because they're participating in the program that we offer.
So is it, might be a dumb question, but is it, how does someone get into your program?
Okay. Just, different organizations throughout the county. So they might show up to one organization, whether it be, I don't want to say any names, but they'll show up to an organization and they will do an assessment. And based on the assessment and just, the different scores and the categories, just depending on what their level of need is, they'll get put onto a waiting list. And by the way, the waiting list really aren't that long. It just depends on how many beds are available just within the programs. And just what their preference is as well. Some people, it's like, okay, I'll take that room in Auburn. Whereas the next person, I want to wait and I'll move into the bed that's on Capitol Hill. So I would rather take that in a few weeks rather than to take this bed that's available in Auburn right now. So, so sometimes they get those choices as well.
So there's a little bit of flexibility.
Yeah, there is.
But a participant, they have to seek out you, your organization. So it should be that they're halfway there, at least, of wanting to receive help and be cooperative and getting help.
Yes.
Is that for the most part, would you say that that's accurate? Like the percentage of individuals who are just, defiant versus the individuals who want to be helped and want to take advantage of these resources.
Yes.
What percentage would you say that is?
What percentage would that be? As far as those who want help versus those that are just more
like
oppositional.
the ones who ones who, you know, are make you happy that you're helping them versus the ones who are like, yo, this dude, I don't know why he's here if he's just making my life miserable.
Right. It varies. Sometimes it's sometimes it could be 10-90, where it's like the 90% is where the opposition is coming from versus the 10. And then, you know, maybe I'm exaggerating it as well. But I don't know. I think I'm too nice, because I'm willing to just say maybe it's like 55-45 or 70-30. I feel like there's more that actually want the help, but they might not have the language to know how to ask for it.
Right.
You know, that's something that I've just been through, just, you know, just based on my upbringing or just different. It's, you know, maybe you just don't know how to ask to begin with, to even ask for help, you know?
Well, that answer that you gave is a clear indicator that you aren't a person in this system. I mean, we were talking about this on the way here.
Yes.
Where surely there has to be some caseworkers in the social services system that are just beaten down, cynical, and possibly don't give the same amount of energy that they once had early on in their career. But the answer that you just gave shows that you are not anywhere near that, because you can see the individual for the individual versus lumping certain traits together as a whole.
Yeah.
No, so I
appreciate that.
That is a super positive thing, because you want people who will give people the help that they deserve and the same energy to each individual and the same opportunity, the same level of hopefulness, I guess the word is.
I agree. I agree.
To cheer them on. Because if someone is doing this job and they're like, you know what, I've seen this before, they're going nowhere, and then just write them off. That is why things are perpetuating the way that they are. Yeah,
it's like they hear enough of that. They hear enough of that. And I try to just remember that everyone So I mean, we said before, you know, there's a homelessness problem, and I'm trying to figure out how to word that. Like, it's, you know, just because I don't want to stigmatize the people who are homeless when I say it, you know, even though, you know, people are homeless for different reasons, but I just don't want to come off as though I'm just talking down on these people. But there's clearly a problem. You know, so
I mean, drive down Rainier. I mean, we're near Rainier here. There's tents everywhere. We were downtown a few days ago, and even downtown on Fifth Avenue in front of these big buildings, there were makeshift. I mean, if you know Seattle, you know that it's gotten really worse.
Oh, I think Fourth Avenue is what you're talking about.
Fifth.
Yeah, Fifth? Wow. Yeah,
we went to the theater.
Fifth.
I know that sounds...
That's unheard of.
I'm not the theater,
sounds like Bruce Wayne.
the theater douchebag.
Or not Bruce Wayne, but his father, Thomas Wayne, when they're leaving the fancy theater and they get killed in the alleyway.
No, on Fifth. We were walking down Fifth going to the theater, and there was a lot. There was a lot of people... in those, a couple of them had tents, a lot of them had just a bunch of boxes, but it's, you know, and I mean, third that's even worse? Or
third is heavy, like when we're talking about between Union and Pike and just, you know, other spots just all throughout the city, but third is just known for right now. Well, third, when people say 3P, they're usually talking about Third and Pine, and Third and Pine has just always been known just for just the heavy, just, you know, heavy population, you know, whether it's fiends or trafficking or just whatever it is, or just, you know, but really just it's moved over to between Union and Pike now. And it's almost Wild West, like outside of the violence. Like, it doesn't really get violent, although there has been shootings over there. But it's just drugs just out in the open, selling out in the open, just the tents everywhere. You know, people managing to still have boom boxes and just the little speakers and just music all the time. And it's just, you know, it's a little barter system. Like, people are running into the store right across the street just to barter it over here, you know? So, I mean, there's like an ongoing thing that's known in Seattle. Like, yo, if you ever need anything, just go see the Boosters on Third Avenue. You know, you're going to get some batteries. You're going to get some laundry detergent, you know? I've definitely, you know, I don't want to say got my fair share of items, but I've definitely got a few items that I was in need of. And $5, like, and not that I'm even looking for it. I'm just walking and someone's like, oh, I got whatever for $5. Like, yeah, I'll take it. You know?
Yeah, it's tough. It's tough. And I've been in Seattle for Going on 20 years.
So that's enough of a reference to know how much that it's changed.
It's very, very different.
Yeah.
It is super different.
It is.
So the individuals who you help, let's just take an 18-year-old, for example.
Okay.
Since what you're trying to do is get them from a state of instability, homelessness, to you called it permanent housing, which
yes,
like what I guess my first question is, what is considered permanent housing?
Sometimes that's a loose definition. Permanent housing is sometimes it's just considered long as they're able to move out of our program and not be homeless. So they could just be moving, going to someone else's couch. But then, couch surfing, that's also considered transitional. That can be considered homelessness because you're living couch to couch. But it's like, hey, if you're moving to someone's couch and you're paying rent there, I think if you're just paying rent somewhere, or you know that there's going to be some housing stability, if you're moving in with a relative, okay, you're stable. But I would say the ultimate permanent housing, like the strongest definition would just, somewhere where you're able to pay rent.
So paying rent is the definition of permanent housing.
Yeah.
Because then it means that you have a responsibility, and then that you are aware that you have to complete X amount, getting work to pay.
Right.
Got it.
Got to wake up, got to show up to work, So whereas homelessness could be considered you might, you have your people that are just chronically homeless, the people that, we see with, tents and boxes, like that's just, okay, if you know how to set up a box, you've done this before.
Sure.
So it's just like, wow, this is just a whole culture that you're operating within.
Yeah.
Whereas, homelessness can also just be considered, just that individual you see on Third, just, selling drugs, or just like anywhere, someone selling drugs, and they're, you see them just out all hours, and, it's like, okay, low key, they might not have anywhere to go. Like, okay, like they might have the latest pair of shoes, or enough of an outfit to look presentable, but they're buying, you see them, they're buying motels all the time. They're sleeping in motels all the time.
Yeah.
Because it's just like, okay, like I don't have a lease anywhere, and I'm not living with anyone. So, and maybe you just got the hotel every other night, maybe someone else gets the hotel this night, or just, like I said, couch to couch, but you're not really sure how stable that is. So just a lot of definitions to what homelessness is. So those are the qualifiers to be able to enter into our program. I've had individuals who they've lived in their cars while going to work, while going to school, but it's just, just the housing situation, it's just something that they just couldn't, quite grasp, just on their own, just despite their best efforts so far,
right.
Just with the resources they have at hand.
Are there any requirements to be in your program? Like, is there, drug testing, is there any sort of expectation that you're going to be sober?
Okay. So for the program that I work in, there is a zero tolerance policy for using on-site, or for having a zero tolerance policy for having any paraphernalia. However, there is no zero tolerance policy as far as using. So we don't do drug testing unless you're in drug court. So drug court is offenders. I don't know which level of offenders, whether it's violent crimes or what have you. Sometimes they get offered the opportunity to go through drug court. They get drug tested daily. They have to, meet with a drug court officer, and sometimes we'll designate beds within our program for them to stay at. So while they're staying at our housing, although we're not doing the testing, they also have drug court following up with them. So just when it comes to, so it's not us.
Court ordered.
So let's say if it's just, someone 18, 19, 20 just moving in, like we're not doing drug tests. I just highly encourage people just to leave the drugs alone. I mean, if they're doing it, I get it. Like I've grown up around addiction all my life. But I mean, we can't have a zero tolerance policy, but people are going to do what they're going to do anyway.
Yeah.
So I make sure that I'm very clear on, it's a zero tolerance policy for using on site.
And by on site, you mean at the
in the housing, in the
where
program, on the property.
you're placed.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then, sometimes it's federally funded too. So that's a whole other thing. So, we'll have some participants that are 21 years of age. So, once you hit 21, I could purchase cannabis legally. I could purchase alcohol legally,
Right.
So it's like, hey, how come I can't use here legally? It's just like, just because there's a law here doesn't, there's still a code of conduct here.
Yeah.
And it's just, like you're using can cause you to fall off and just defeat the whole purpose of you even just being in this facility to improve your life. And not only that, you could be triggering the next individual who's been doing their best to try to stay clean. Like you don't know what their lifestyle was before this or what they saw growing up, as far as just their parents or guardian or whatever situation was with using, so just for different reasons like that. Usually I'm able to explain it and they get it. Sometimes I could over communicate, but like my goal is just so I don't want to miss anything,
Sure.
so it's just like, but for those very reasons, they can't use on site. However, if they do get caught, there's consequences. They could be in jeopardy of losing their housing. So, we'll have a discussion, and just come up with, just an honor system or like a contract. Okay, we're going to write up a contract. We already have the rules, the expectations, the guidelines of what you signed and agreed to when you signed your lease to move in. We see you falling off, and we don't just want to just be cold-hearted, but it's just like at the same time, we got to make sure that these other individuals that are living here are safe as well. So that means you need to get on point. So what we're going to do, okay, we're going to take it a step further. Maybe we need to monitor you a little more. We're going to write this contract. You're going to be involved in it. You're going to agree to the contract. So if anything does happen to the point where you want to blame somebody for you're being removed from housing, it's like, hey, we had a meeting. Like you signed this stuff before moving in. You were explained the rules before moving in. Furthermore, you broke the rules in which you could have been removed for, but we recognize the need, and it's just like we don't, unfortunately, like people aren't going to be perfect. It is what it is. People are going to make different varying degrees of mistakes. And for that reason, okay, we decided to do a contract with you. Even still, you decided to break the contract. So it's like when you get removed, like you can't get upset with us. You got to get upset with yourself at a certain point. Self-accountability is a factor, So I'm just really big on that. And I try to exemplify it in my own life too. Cause like, how can I talk about these things, but not practice it, So, so I think that helps a lot too. And I like what you said about just, sometimes people that work in certain fields, they can be just very cynical, and it's just, after a while, sometimes it beats you down, like, especially when you're working with like population past 25, like those are usually the people that I see that are more cynical when they're working with people that are homeless,
Right.
So whereas it's like, okay, we're working with that age where it's just like, okay, like this is kind of the tipping point. This is kind of like that last shot, So it's just like,
I mean, it seems like if you're working with an 18-year-old, you see their potential. You see how you see that they're not fully immersed in. I mean, basically, they're still young,
right?
And they can still make modifications. But when you're 25, then you're more. I mean, because that's a big difference. 18 to 25.
You're halfway to 30. 20 to 30. Like
I mean, you're more set in your way. You're just more of a creature of habit, and you don't take guidance as easily. I mean, for certain 18-year-olds, if you just have a strong person saying you need to do this, they might respond.
Right.
But for a 25-year-old, you're right. They're not gonna respond in the way that a kid will respond to authority.
Unfortunately,
so that can be super, super tough. The housing that you do have, where does that come from? So it's like you have participants, and you're like, okay, we have X amount of beds.
Yes.
Like where do those come from? And then ultimately, is it up to you to place the individual in the bed? Okay. Or does it go through a committee? Like how does that happen?
Yeah, so it's a team effort. So where we get them from is, there's, a lot of grant writing, of course. And then just, whatever money comes, if those grants are approved or accepted or just whatever the term is. And then just, there's different donors throughout the community as well. We've had a few houses throughout the region where it's like it's one specific person, like they actually like donate that house to the program, or like a funding code that we might use. Like I come to find out, like, okay, that funding code, like it's just one specific person that's been donating, like bankrolling this program to keep on going. they're the ones that's doing the funding. And the whole time I'm just not knowing. I just know that I have to go about writing, different codes on my receipts so that, when the audit comes, like everything is on point. But, the whole time it's coming from like a specific donor. So like I said, between donors and grant writings, because, these are nonprofits. So like, the money comes from, just different places. Such as
it's
those.
a very, I mean, it's probably changing month to month.
Yeah.
I mean, are there certain months where?
Well, more so year to year. We usually have a budget for the year.
Okay.
So yeah, so it could change year to year. Like it's been some years where, okay, the end of December is coming. We don't know if we're going to have a program in January, so.
Holy cow.
Yeah.
Actually, I want to say that sounds horrible
Yeah.
because not only do you have to then mentally deal with the day to day, right? The dealing of the participants, but then in the back of your head, you also have to deal with, am I going to have a job January 1st?
Yeah, absolutely.
Because of, funding of, that is very, that's nuts.
It is.
that I mean, again,
I fully agree.
I mean, kudos to you. You're doing the Lord's work doing that because first of all, I'm not that good of a person to say, I think I could do this.
Yeah.
I mean, that just seems so challenging. And then to have such a cheerful demeanor that you have.
No, definitely. You kind of have to.
It seems like you would.
Because if I didn't,
you'd just be miserable.
What would I succumb to?
It's like no one would want to hang around you.
There's so many different routes. Like there's just, it's just like I can see why people just have just some of the different varying degrees of addictions that they fall to. It's just like, it's escapism. It's just like, ignorance really is bliss, when you get to a certain point. And it's just like, okay, so how do you maintain that same enthusiasm or just optimism, you have to, because otherwise, like, I don't want to fall into, and not that I would or not, I don't know, you just never know, but it's just, you have to operate like this, so.
Well, at that point, it's self-preservation. At that point, it's I understand I'm doing good, right? I'm not, everyone's like, oh, we need to. Man, if it's one thing that I hate is platitudes, and a lot of, even just watching football. When you see these dudes that have these sayings on the back of their helmet, be the change, and it's like, oh,
right.
It's like, be the change. Okay, well, you're making $1 million a game. Be the change.
Right.
But like that's to you, right? That is you for that, not some spoiled as super wealthy athlete who just feels that this little 3 words on his helmet is actually gonna
unless it's someone who's living that outside too, because like that was a thing for a minute, like 2020, 2021, just like, oh, let's all put something on our helmet.
Yeah.
Now, like, okay, what about that person that's doing it when no one else is doing it? Like, kudos to them. Now, just
they win the Walter Payton Award.
Yeah, for sure. But yeah,
man, that is a lot.
It is.
So the beds come from donors, from writing grants to be able to secure them.
Right.
So ideally,
fundraising as well.
Okay.
Like sometimes there's, fundraising efforts that take place. Those are in other departments, but they're all very important. They're all very important.
Man,
to the
they
program.
have the fun jobs, man.
Yeah.
They're the ones who get to do the parties and whatnot.
Oh man, yeah, no, absolutely, yeah. Just
what type of parties do they have?
I don't know. I don't
they don't invite you to those?
Well, either I'm not invited, or by the time I am invited, it's just like, I'm good. Like,
man, you gotta take advantage of these parties.
Yeah. But the thing is, if it's a work related party, what are we talking about? We're talking about work. I don't want to talk about work. Yeah. Like I want to talk about it now just because, this is just a great opportunity just to kind of like shed some light on just what takes place in the community. But just like, do I want to talk about work while I'm at work, while it's supposed to be a party? And
Well, if you're
maybe
getting
maybe that's
free
some of my cynicism. Maybe I expect the worst when I show up and I feel like I'm being interviewed, and it's just like, no, I'm just trying to like let loose. And then sometimes I'll show up to these events and it's like, oh, that wasn't half as bad as I thought it was going to be. I actually had a good time, but you know,
I would say you'll have that experience more often than not.
yeah,
And then plus, who knows? This could lead to another career for you to be the liaison between, you know, certain big companies and your organization to get these. I mean, because that's all
you never know.
Like, you're a good schmoozer.
You think so? First time I've ever been called that.
I'm a
February 8th,
decent schmoozer.
2022. About to write that down with schmoozer.
I mean, that's what sales is about, schmoozing. I
sure.
did sales for a bit, and the point is to be able to. You need someone who believes in what they're doing in order to effectively communicate it, and get someone else to be excited about it.
Okay, that makes sense. That makes sense.
So that's for the 10 plus years that I sold label printing software.
Yeah.
I mean, that is super boring, right?
Okay.
It is super boring.
Right.
But I was pretty excited when I spoke to a new company, let's say a small startup.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, you need to be able to barcode your products. I can help you. And then they're like, really? And then it's super easy. And then I would show them how to do it. That was exciting for me.
Yeah.
I mean, so if I would, the parallel to you would be, you believe in what you're doing. It's relatable to you. You can put your own personal experiences into it. You would then be the best able to communicate to someone to say why that is important and why they need to open up that checkbook.
For sure. Okay.
Is that a position? Is that a job? It should be a job.
I'm sure it's a job. I mean, yes. I mean, sales. That's everywhere. That's everywhere you go. You know, like we're selling ourselves all the time when you first meet somebody. You know, you know, even sometimes the clothes that you buy. The reason I bought this hat, you know, is just like, okay, like the color's gonna pop a little more. I don't know anything about the reds, you know, at all, except that Griffey. Yeah, you beat me to it. I know that Griffey, you know what I'm saying, like, but you know, outside of that, like I couldn't really tell you much. I could tell you they're in Ohio, but you know, as far as a selling point, like I like how that hat looks on you, you know.
Who was their general manager back in the 90s? Was it Mart Schott?
I'm not sure.
No, I don't think it was. I mean,
I kind of want to look it up now.
Look it up.
Yeah. Okay.
Mart Schott. I don't remember. I don't think it was Mart Schott.
Was she? Wait. Was she the manager or the owner for the Boston Red Sox, or am I thinking of someone else?
No.
I know that name. I've read up on her before. Now that you said the name a couple of times.
Supposedly she was racist.
Yeah. Right. Mm-hmm.
Supposedly.
Likely.
But
it's baseball, man. Well, not nothing against baseball, but I'm talking about just like going back. You know, it's just. Let me see, Marge Schott.
I think the funniest. They
did do a movie about her, man.
Yep,
yeah,
it was her. The funniest thing she said was when she got accused of being racist. She said, "I'm not racist. If I were to be in a war, I would want Albert Bell, who was this big time power hitter back in the 90s."
Okay. They need to do a movie about her. She just has a look like, oh, okay, I'd watch that.
She may have been problematic.
Dang, she's born and died in Cincinnati.
Yeah.
Dang.
Yeah, that is surprised that I know this. I don't know hardly anything about baseball.
Yeah.
But that is pretty crazy that I know who Mart Schott is. Yeah, and I think she passed away. Yeah, she's old.
I'm just looking at articles.
She would have been 90-something years old by now.
Racist slurs are haunting her even after her death. Like,
yeah.
Okay, there it is. So yeah, so he was like, I didn't even Google racism. I just Googled her name, and it's just like hit after hit after hit. You know,
man.
So
yeah. Poor March. I mean, not poor March Schott.
No, I know what you mean though. Just like that's your legacy. You know, whether you like it or not. Yeah. You know, so at least for now. I mean, who knows what the legacy of being 100 years, 200 years. So
if you've everyone I think has said something problematic at some point, especially if you say it into a microphone or into a camera.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think anyone is pure.
Yeah. And then the times are different too. Like the times in which she was saying that, like I'm not condoning slurs or anything, but it's just, these are just things that were more acceptable. I mean, if we watch an episode of like Married with Children or like TV shows from the 70s, like even just like
Love
doing Asian accents and stuff. You know, it's just like, yo, like it was just the whole thing. Like it was just roaring laughter when these like stereotypical like impressions would take place. And we're seeing them all the time, you know? So
like she got called out in the 90s.
Yeah.
So if you got called out in
right. It's like you're doing the most. Yeah, there it is, man.
But it's
and
a crazy time.
and I'm wearing her hat.
There you go.
Know?
How do you feel about this?
I mean, I already got the hat, man. You know,
but you know,
so I'd have to think about that more. But it's like, I guess you should be conscious in the things that you purchase. But it's just like, I mean, if you're going to micromanage every little thing you do, it just gets to the point where it's just like you're not going to be able to move. Like
you're going to be wearing. You're going to be wearing sandals made out of rubber tires, and clothes made out of burlap sacks from potatoes. Because everything has been problematic at some point.
Everything.
Volkswagen, Boss, Porsche.
Yeah.
And I'm rewatching The Last Dance. Have you seen this with Jordan?
The Last Dance. You know, I watched the first episode. I have not. So I have 9 more episodes to complete. Man, you know, so I'm looking for it, but it just hasn't happened yet. What's interesting, I think me and Paris were talking yesterday, and I had brought up. Oh yeah, you were. I don't know if you were there or if it was Saul, but I just brought up the idea of just you might have left by then, but I brought up like, how are people finding time to like watch some of these video podcasts that are like 3 hours, 4 hours, you know? So it's just like, I don't know. I don't make the time to watch some of these shows that are just a part of just the overall conversation that everyone's talking about. And it's like, I miss out a lot, and it's like, I want to tap in, but the opportunities just, I guess I just don't carve out the time. But Last Dance is something I definitely want to watch. So.
Watching The Last Dance is a far better investment in time than watching the majority of these YouTube podcasts.
Okay.
Because if you're a basketball fan, it is really interesting to see how deep they go, how behind the scenes they go to that 2002, 2003 season. What was the last season the Bulls won?
Are you talking about when Jordan was still playing, or after? So that was the 9. I believe that was 9-7-9-8, or maybe 9-8-9-9. I know they won. I think they won the three-peat 9-7-9-8. So it might have been 9-8-9-9 when it might have been his last playing.
I should know this. I should have it.
It's one of the two. It's 9-8 or 9-9.
But it is fantastic. Yeah. It is absolutely fantastic. So then I just rewatched the episode where they went through everything problematic about Jordan, where they accused him of being a betting addict, and then I think this is just hyperbole on the writer's part, where there was a writer who said that MJ lost the respect of a lot of black people because he didn't support a black Democratic candidate in North Carolina. Okay, that his mom wanted him to. Like he was I forget, Nat, I believe was his name, where Jordan's mom wanted him to come out and endorse him. Dang. And then supposedly Jordan said Republicans buy sneakers too.
Yeah, I remember that quote.
Which Jordan explains that he said this on the bus in just talking to Horace and Scotty. Yeah. So this wasn't like a thought out interview that he did where he said, I'm not going to do this because Republicans buy sneakers too. Yeah. And then he went on to say that, I think this is 100% fair. He said, I didn't see myself as an activist. Yeah. He saw himself as a basketball player. Right. Not like Muhammad Ali. Yeah. And I think that's okay. And then, do you ever read anything from Jason Wilbon?
Who is?
So he's a sports writer, and he was on ESPN.
Is he the guy that used to wear the hat? Or let me look his name up.
He's a fat guy.
I think I know who he. Okay, I'm thinking of Jason Whitlock. Never mind. So I don't think I've read anything from this guy. This individual.
You know what? I think you're right. It is Whitlock. But now he's on. Now he doesn't do ESPN anymore. Is it Jason Whitlock? It is Jason Whitlock. Yep.
Yeah, I'm kind of cool off of him.
You don't like him?
I don't like him because it's
That's so interesting. Yeah. I didn't like him before. Yeah. I like him now because when I listen to him and I read what he says, like it makes sense to me.
You know what? And just based on his reputation just from before, it's just like, I mean, I just felt like, why tap in with this guy? But I mean, I'm sure it wouldn't hurt just to see what he's saying. And I guess it's one of those things where if he says something I just don't agree with, it's just like, okay, I'm not going to be surprised.
Yeah.
Because he's been doing that.
True.
So,
because he's on.
Yeah.
He's, I mean, I don't know. In my opinion, I thought he was very race baity before.
Yeah.
Like, I think he purposefully did it. And I remember having conversations with friends and saying, I just don't like to listen to it because I know exactly what he's going to say. Like, he's always going to come from this perspective.
Yeah.
But he has had a shift. Well, I could be completely wrong because I haven't read everything that he's written.
Okay.
So it might not be a shift. It might just be that I'm interpreting it differently.
Okay.
But he did this whole thing where he said that Muhammad Ali... He was comparing Muhammad Ali to LeBron.
Okay.
And what he was saying was that the reason Muhammad Ali was so pinpoint accurate and was able to articulate his feelings so clearly was because he had an organization behind him that educated him, that taught him, that would explain to him this is why X, Y, and Z. Okay. And then he says that LeBron doesn't have that. He goes, LeBron is just going to hop on to anything that the DNC says or that anything that certain politicians that are getting news coverage is. I mean, LeBron had a Birdo hat on, for crying out loud.
Yeah.
Who was the guy in Texas. So it's like he's only looking at what is getting the most noise, and then that's what he's doing. Whereas Muhammad Ali was passionate about the Nation of Islam and had a very strong relationship with
Elijah Muhammad
and Malcolm X, so that they were able to really, I mean, whether you agree with it or not, but that they were able to teach him, and he was a student of it. So his messaging came from this one place.
Okay.
Whereas LeBron is just scattered all over. It's just like what's popping up next.
Yeah.
And anyway, he did this whole thing about it, which really made sense. Because if you go back and look and watch old Muhammad Ali, like there's always someone.
Yeah, I feel like you can watch Muhammad Ali at any time, and you're going to get something that's edifying, something that feeds you.
Right.
So I can agree with that.
But
true. I mean, I don't know if agree is the word. Like, I could agree that Muhammad Ali, the late great Muhammad Ali, like he's going to give you something that you can chew on. Something you can think about, something you can compare to what's going on nowadays, and something you can look back and just respect and appreciate, and sometimes even revere for some people. It's like set a heck of an example.
Absolutely.
So, yeah.
But then it came because he had fundamentals, right? There was his belief system was sound and was strong, and that's what's missing from a lot of. From a lot of these high profile players. Well, I don't even know why we got off on this.
Well, we're here now, and I want to defend LeBron a little bit. It's like Jason Whitlock isn't going to hear this. So it's just like just based on your interpretation of what he said. It's okay. So while he doesn't have the Nation of Islam behind him, let's say if LeBron did have the Nation of Islam behind him, they would still attack him.
True.
Because like who's associated with that?
More.
That's Louis Farrakhan. I mean, Farrakhan is banned from so many. Like he's banned from YouTube. He's banned from social media. Like he still has his own platform. If you go to nationofislam.org, but it's just like they don't want his message getting out there. And it's just like, so if LeBron had that person behind him, I mean, it would be even that much more controversy. And
well, it would have to be,
so
I mean, unfortunately, Louis Farrakhan has turned himself into a fringe actor in modern politics. It's really hard to take him seriously because everything he says is just so out there. And maybe it was similar back in the 60s, but information wasn't as disseminated as fast and as quickly and as broad as it was now. So it's not like people from every walk of life knew what what they were really saying or what they really believed.
Yeah.
But LeBron,
there was a lot of exploring back then. Like it was just a different awakening back then. It's just like
even if LeBron wouldn't do it because he knew that would alienate I mean, it's the same thing that Jordan said. Republicans buy sneakers too. If LeBron aligned himself with an organization like that, he knows that it would alienate a big chunk of the following, and it just wouldn't behoove him. But if he just piggybacks off of, if he just what I really want to say is that if he just piggybacks off of the Democratic Party that gets the most coverage, he then thinks, okay, this is what people actually want, so I'm just going to piggyback off of it and go. Yeah. So it's more of wherever the wind blows, which is very different than Muhammad, because Muhammad had he had a fundamental core belief system, had convictions, whereas. And I'm not saying that just LeBron doesn't have it. Lots of people don't really have a set of convictions and a true belief system. It's, I believe this time, but if someone says something wacky, then I'm going to denounce them and then go over here. And if they say something wacky, then I'm going to dismiss. I mean, it's rare.
Yeah, I can see how it's rare. And I mean, there's a lot of pressure. So like, if you do, just going back, if you do speak up, then you get ostracized, you get penalized, you get all these different things. Yeah. And sometimes you have to be the person to do that. I mean, we could look at Muhammad Ali, like the whole draft situation, like all that really was just retaliation just for, the views that he did have, So, I mean, it's deeper. I'm oversimplifying it, of course, but that's what I believe.
But
so,
I don't even think you're simplifying it at all. I think that it's still dead on to where there was a belief system, and he fully,
absolutely,
and the fact
that he sacrificed. He lost some of the best years of his career, due to that. So like,
and it's not like he had a sponsorship deal on the side that was paying him millions of bucks while he was out. He didn't have that.
Right.
Like
it was different back then.
There was a true sacrifice for this, and it was during the prime of his. Exactly. Man, it's like I love boxing. Yeah. I mean, as you can see.
Sorry, yeah, absolutely.
Like actually,
even in the rear view window, just the gloves.
my most of my stuff is in boxes right now because we're moving.
Yeah. So you had more in here before the movie?
Yeah. Okay. I have a bunch of gloves.
Right on.
I have a signed Tyson, signed Andre Ward, signed Gennady Golovkin, signed Eric Morales. Like my favorite Mexican boxer of all time is Eric Morales.
Okay.
Yeah, I had a ton. Yeah. I had a signed Arnold Schwarzenegger. But
it's all packed up.
Yeah.
Awaiting a new home.
The CZ Media Podcast Studio has a new home. We should be in by the beginning of March, and it's going to be cool. I'm going to turn it into I'm going to try to do it video.
Okay.
But I don't know. It's like
doesn't hurt to test it out.
I don't want to. Yeah. I don't want people to see my fat face. But no. So
get that water intake. Little regimen. And just make it work. But I'm going to touch on LeBron a little bit. Just so I'm just thinking about just whatever it is that Jason Whitlock said. And I don't know. It's just I don't know. My impression of him is just it's like. It's kind of easy for you to just kind of like attack somebody just from whatever your sanctuary is. It's just like, yo, what are you really doing? You're not really known for these things either, my guy. You know what I mean? Like it's a lot of us that just really don't rock with him just based on just moves that he's made back in the day. And it's just like, oh yeah, we can't, we can't condone that. He kind of makes us look bad. He's kind of putting us on Front Street and not giving black people. Yeah. I'm a black man, by the way, if you all couldn't tell. So, yeah. And if you disagree, that's cool too. It's just like, you don't have to not rock with Jason Whitlock just because you're black and just because I feel a certain way or just whatever it is. But it's just like my feelings on him, like, oh, I'm cool off of him. And even just to have that discussion about LeBron and compare him, if you compare anyone to Muhammad Ali, that's just not a fair comparison. Yeah. Period. And I get, okay, if you're going to compare somebody, okay, someone who's at the top of their field, that's LeBron. So it's just like, okay, I don't want to say easy target, but it's just like, okay, so it's kind of easy to pick on LeBron, but it's like if you look at the way that he's conducted himself, I mean, this is someone who was just a superstar at 18, just had the world just handed to him on a silver platter. And I mean, he could have taken so many different paths that we see young men just who aren't used to that level of wealth he could have took it any path, and it's just like, I mean, he's a great father, great husband. Far as just what he does on the court, I can't really speak to that too much. People call him a crybaby, but me personally, it's just like, I appreciate the athleticism. You know what I'm saying? I'm not even really into sports like that, but it's like, you're obviously doing something right to make it that far and just to put up with whatever pressures that are taking place behind the scenes, you know? So it's just like, I'm like, yo, he's doing something right. And to be able to still dedicate himself to, maybe he's trying to find his voice when it comes to social justice, whereas Muhammad Ali, he actualized that in a very, much earlier than LeBron did. Right. I mean, when we think about LeBron, I think he's 37, 36. He's got to be at least 36 or 37. Yeah. Whereas Ali, he was a younger man, fighting for a cause. So I want to give him. I don't want to. A pass isn't the word, but I just feel like, okay, like he's trying to find whatever his voice in, and he's putting his money where his mouth is in some areas. Yeah. So it's just like, we can't really expect Ali in this area. And the thing that some of us do is like, we keep looking to the past for leaders. Like, we keep looking to the Dr. Kings. Right. We keep looking to the Malcolm X. These are individuals that me personally, both of them, that I admire. But it's just like, how do we take, like, okay, if they're passing the baton, okay, it's time for us to run the race now. Like, right. They're not coming back. You have
to take what they said and then progress it.
Right.
Move it forward and then adapt it to
Thank you.
where
I was
we
just thinking that word.
are.
Yeah, I was thinking that word adapt. Yeah, so
right.
we absolutely have to adapt. And it's like, we're in an age now, and it just reminds me of just the earlier conversation about, the homeless population. It's like, we got to adapt. Like, there's technology, there's different opportunities. Granted, they're not, it's harder to access for some than others, because, sometimes your psychology plays a part in it, But it's just, we have to adapt. We have to look forward. So it's like, LeBron can't necessarily do everything that Ali was doing. He just can't. Plus, LeBron's busier than Ali. You're playing at least in a regular season. You're playing 82 games. Muhammad Ali, he was fighting a fight like what I don't like. I think they fought more often back then. But even then, you weren't fighting every night,
3-4 times a year.
Yeah. So it's just like, okay, I have different more time to study and prove and practice and sit up under different mentors and people that I can learn from, and he was going worldwide too. Like the NBA, like, okay, you're playing in the States, so you're going to have a different view if you're just all around the world, and then plus you add the name Muhammad Ali, like how many people around the world practice Islam, so it's just like, people are going to identify with that off top. Like, he was the people's champ. We didn't see Ali in just the nice cars and this and that and whatever. Not that he might have liked those things, but it's just like, he could relate more to the people, so it's just whereas like with LeBron, like, okay, that's, it's just, we're talking 50-year difference in culture, It's just like, they didn't have rap back then. Like, they still like to get fly. You had the Curtis Mayfield, so you had music, you had blaxploitation movies. Like, there was always this conversation about, young people, they're trying to be like the rappers. But okay, if you go back to, the 70s, young people was trying to be like blaxploitation. Y'all was trying to be like the Mac. You was trying to be like Ron O'Neal and Superfly. You was trying to be like Dolomite. You was, so it's just like, okay, your generation might be talking about these rappers.
Pam Grier.
But it's just like, yo, you were trying to be like someone too. You was trying to be like Huggy Bear and just all whatever characters, so it's just like,
for as much as time passed, I think we're fairly simple people. We're fairly simple people. It's like, yes, modality has changed and technologies has changed, but it's still, it's still ego. It is still wanting to make, be
the man.
Be the man. Yeah, it's still wanting people to look at us a certain way, to be perceived a certain way.
Yeah,
and it all just it's all kind of it's kind of all still in the same hodgepodge of how people have been since forever. Like, I'm sure that there was a caveman who did something,
something to stand
with
out
his cave, and someone is like, "Oh, that's super cool," and then they did that to them too.
The fact that we arrived to the point where we had rulers and kings, like, you were always going to need a leader, but somehow we landed with the designation of king or chief, and just the different, what's the word, regalia that they wear. You know, it's just like, okay,
Pomps
why?
and circumstance.
Yeah, you know, so it's just like you're not wearing that just because you're wearing that for a reason.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So
and it's all ego. It's all
Yeah,
man-made.
it is.
It's all
It
ego
is.
nonsense.
Yeah, absolutely. You know,
I don't like that at all.
Yeah,
like
for
I
sure.
had on the owners of Drip Tea on the show a few shows ago.
Okay.
And I don't know if you follow Drip Tea. They're the little shop on
I don't
12th and Union.
I don't follow them, but I know who they are.
Their outfits are carefully procured.
Yeah.
And when we were talking to them, I was sat here and I thought, you know what? You know what, guys? It's kind of weird even me talking to you because I don't care at all how I look. Okay. It's like I wear Old Navy t-shirts, shorts from Target, and I'm perfectly okay with this.
He does have the infrared 6s on, by the way, though, the black infrared. So it's so there's a little bit there.
They responded something like that too.
Yeah.
Like from what I was wearing. Yeah. I was like, yeah, it's like
but you got the right pair though. Like if you are gonna have a pair, you got the right one.
But it's like other than that, man, give me a Hot Topic tee. Mm-hmm. And I'm good.
And you know what? It's just like I tend to tell people like clothes don't make the man makes the clothes, you know? So it's just like you can give one person this outfit, that outfit, they're not going to feel like the best version of themselves. Whereas the next person, like, oh yeah, I could rock with this all day. Yeah. You know, like I think I was like, oh yeah, that's the Andy Warhol design, right. You know? So it's just like some people might get the references right away and it's just like, oh yeah, that's what's up. That's a good look, you know?
And I'm the nutnik who I just do not care at all of mostly of what I wear. It does not matter. I get mocked a lot, but it just does not matter. I'll wear anything that my wife buys me.
Yeah. Okay.
But the funny thing to that is what she buys me from, Hot Topic and Old Navy. Yeah. I get compliments way more than those times where I wear like I
got my Fear of God hoodie on. How come no one's complimenting me?
Exactly. It's like I have how do you say that brand? Givenchy.
Yeah.
I have a Givenchy shirt. Mm-hmm. And no one cares. But I have this Godzilla graphic tee that I've gotten at least a dozen compliments of like, oh, that's a cool Godzilla t-shirt.
Wow.
It's like no one cares about this other one.
Yeah.
It's like, you know what? Who cares?
Maybe they're intimidated too. Maybe that's why some of the compliments don't come. It's just like, because I've complimented, like I know the brand Givenchy and just different brands. Like I remember just like going back to like maybe the early 2010s, just seeing people like, okay, yeah, I see you, like just knowing these brands, like, like they've always kind of been there, but it's just like, it's hyper consumerism now. It's just like, I mean, I see middle schoolers. I remember picking up my nephew from school. I'm seeing the 7th, 8th grader with an Off-White hoodie on. And this is a few years ago before people really knew. Like some people always knew who Virgil was, but I'm talking like 2016, 17 before he was with Louis Vuitton. I'm like, yo, how can this kid afford? Like, yo, I can't afford. Like, I can, but I don't want to spend $400 on this hoodie right now, And it's just like that might have not been the case back then, So, talking 2011, 2012, just to kind of like stay on point with what my point is. But seeing people in Givenchy, it's just like, okay, I'll give a couple compliments, but it's just like, yo, like you're kind of an a-hole because they'll just kind of like just have their nose up, and it's just like, yo, I'm just recognizing what you got, like, because like, yo, that's a good look. I'm like, yo, I'm complimenting it because I know not everybody knows what that is. And then like after a while, it's like I can't even compliment y'all anymore. You like you wore it just to be cocky. It's just like, okay, like my perspective on fashion is just a little different in the way that it brings people together and the storytelling and all these different things, So it's just like just this is the reason I got into shoes. Like it had little to do with Jordan. Jordan was just the man, period. So that was always going to be a factor, but it was just all the different colorways, all the different stories, maybe the people you looked up in your neighborhood that wore them, just the look, just the whole lore. Everyone comes back to school, after Christmas break and they got the new Jordans. I couldn't afford them at the time, but now that I'm grown, I can buy that pair. I can buy 2 pairs, and it's just like, I can relay this back to my childhood, but I tell people just, man makes the clothes does not make the man. So it's just like, if you're looking for some type of validation within just that and you're just a shell of yourself, you're going to get hurt and you're going to waste your money doing it. Right. Now if you can maintain,
and it's not genuine.
Right. It's not genuine. And it's just like, you can be just as fresh going to JCPenney, get a fresh pair of Levi's, get some fresh t-shirts or polos or whatever. And it's like the way you conduct yourself is what's going to say a lot about you, you know? And so that's where it's really at. Now, if you can have both, if you can have the nice clothes and just not be attached to it, because that's where like attachment comes in. It's just like, if you can have that and not be attached, like even better. I remember hearing the story about Tupac when he would go buy new clothes or whatever, he would leave all his old clothes in the dressing room, you know, just that super rock star lifestyle. And it's just like, just to be that detached from something, like that's what it's about. And he was known for being a stylish dude, being a ladies man, you know. And it's just like, I'm not so attached to this where like I have to have every pair of shoes or every this or every that. Like it's just you know, it's just a tool, you know. So yeah,
man, we're all different.
Yeah, absolutely.
And we just have to take how we make sure that we feel okay. And me looking like a moron is okay with me. But I'm going to have on some off-white Jordan 1 UNCs.
Yep. Yes, sir.
Well, Tommy, thank you so much.
Sure.
I think that you've given people a really good idea of, you know, the state of where things are and like the hard work that the people who put into it to find, you know, to try to help, right? To be the change that the NFL helmets want.
It's crazy how the conversation transitioned, you know? So
I love.
Yeah.
I wasn't a big football fan until maybe 2 seasons ago. Before that, I didn't really I don't like basketball at all anymore.
Yeah.
The last game that I saw was probably a Kobe game.
Okay.
So it's been a while.
Yeah.
Right now, my sports are F1, UFC, boxing, and football.
Right on.
And I can almost always take the conversation back to
as it did, right?
To any of that because I didn't get an F1 reference in there, but I probably could have.
Yeah.
But thank you so much. We appreciate it. Is there any what do you want people to take away from all of this?
It's interesting. We kind of ended on just talking about clothes and, you know, man doesn't make, you know, clothes don't make the man makes the clothes. I think one good takeaway would be that person's circumstance doesn't make them, whether they're homeless, whether they're an addict, whatever it is. Like you could have all the money in the world and still be an addict, you know, and just not be homeless. So it's just like that circumstance does not make who that person is. That person still, we all have our own struggles. That person has her 24/7 experience. One thing for me, for example, what I do is when I get paid, right, I'll set aside like $15. And because I know someone's going to ask me for a spare change throughout the next couple of weeks till I get paid again. So I'll just 15 loose ones. If someone asks for some spare change, it's like, okay, I got you. I got $1 for you. I got $2. Or I know I'm going into the store. Can I get you anything? Can I get you a coffee? This, that, or whatever. So when I have it in my budget on my phone, just within my notes, it used to say spare change, and it just evolves every now and then. It went from spare change to, I called it like my neighbor fund. And for me, it was just trying to let me start looking at these people as my neighbors, not just people that are homeless. And I'm not going to save $15 isn't going to save anybody, but it's just at least for me and for me and myself, I'm going to make sure that I'm staying on point and I'm looking at you as a person. Not that I felt that I didn't before, but it's just
more purposeful.
Sometimes it can just get frustrating. Like sometimes people are, you know, just at my job site, people are sleeping on the stairs when they shouldn't be, and they're just defecating on all these different things, and that can cause you to get frustrated, and that frustration could lead to being cruel. And I don't want to become a cruel person. Yeah. It's just like, yo, that's somebody's brother. Like, yo, what if that was my brother? You know, I wouldn't condone my brother having this lifestyle, but at the same time, I wouldn't want somebody being so cruel to him to where it's just like they're just whatever comes along with that cruelty, you know? Yeah. So it's just like my language changed from, you know, oh, this is for spare change to, oh, this is for my neighbors, you know? So, but yeah, so long answer to your question, but just a takeaway, just their circumstance does not make who that person is. So yeah, I think that's a good takeaway. And the youth need good examples. Like I know they're not quite youth, like the age range that I work with, they're 18 to 24, but they do need our examples, you know. So that's why I try to keep myself on point because they might have not had that example growing up, you know, going to school and everything. They just still might not have had the example. It's interesting we're talking about sports, right? Because when it's that star athlete, it's just like, oh, we got to make sure sports keeps these kids off of the streets, you know? What about that kid that is high risk but does not have the sport ability, you know? What's going to keep them off the street? You know, so it's just like the same attitude we have for kids that play sports. Apply the same attitude to that kid who's maybe a math whiz or just whatever it is, but just like they don't have that athletic capability because they need it too, and they have resources that they're missing or examples that they're missing in their lives. You know, maybe they come from a household, maybe it's a biracial household, and maybe in their culture, they're not going to the barbershop every other week and they're being around different males and observing and seeing how people conduct themselves and all these different things. And they're just seeing the world through a small window. It's like, what about them? How do we expose them? How do we give them access? I feel like there's a lot of people, in spite of us being in the Northwest, there's a lot of people that kind of don't have access to different technology, and they probably never seen this type of setup in their life, but everyone has a phone, right? So it's just like, just an example. So it's just, just being an example and just recognizing not everyone really has the access. Not that you have to give all your resources, but it's just, I don't know, I guess just be mindful of those things. And
compassion goes a long way.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Well, thank you so much for coming and having a conversation with us. Thank you everyone for listening. Don't forget to subscribe on your favorite podcast app. Don't forget to hook me up with a 5-star review, please. And then don't forget to check out the sponsors, Rancho Bravo Tacos, Capitol Hill and Wallingford, and Soulmates at 1422 Harvard Ave above the QFC. And then make sure to use that VDate10 discount code at checkout. Thank you, everyone, and we'll see you next week.
I don't know if I was supposed to say bye or not, but